What would you do if you were born a hero in a world that doesn't need a hero anymore? Would you cry? Would you rage? Would you be depressed? That is what happens to the protagonist of this story, Corleo. Corleo was born the official hero of this world, but the last reincarnation of this world already defeated the Demon Lord, so Corleo is left with nothing to do. We've all been there at one point in our lives, and some of us are there now, wandering this huge world for a sense of purpose, and the world only giving us breadcrumbs. Corleo is an 18-year-old boy who was chosen to be the hero of this world when he was born with the sigil on his left hand. The only problem is that the last hero, Halo, defeated the Demon Lord, Mama. Yes, that's her name. They all have weird names. But Halo didn't kill Mama. Instead, he made a truce with the Demon Lord. The truce was that humans and demons would live together in peace, and she agreed. Now, Halo died shortly right after, but he did have one request for Mama, and that was that the next hero should live a peaceful life. So Mama did just that. After finding the next hero, Corleo, she went and adopted him because he was an orphan. And for 18 years, she raised him like the son she never had. The only problem was that Mama was a little overprotective. As her son, she believed that Corleo had to be homeschooled, so he never made friends. She didn't want girls to take advantage of him, so she never let him date. And she didn't want him to get hurt, so she never let him do anything dangerous. But this goes against Corleo's very nature, because what else is he supposed to do if he was put on this earth to protect people and keep them safe? But the reality was that the world didn't need him anymore, so he was bitter and clueless on what he should do, resentful of the previous hero for ending the demon-human war and leaving him a husk of a hero. That is, until he meets Evan. Now, Evan is the only person that can relate to Corleo because he is also a hero. Evan is a hero from another dimension that was transported to Corleo's world by a demon lord named End. But Evan is different from Corleo because Evan's world wasn't as lucky as Corleo's. In Evan's dimension, everyone he knew died, and his world was destroyed by the demon lord. Everyone Evan knows, his mom, his dad, his friends, his girlfriend, and all died because he wasn't strong enough to defeat End. And this leads Evan to question himself. How could he be called a hero when he couldn't protect everyone he loved? And on top of that, being the only survivor of that world. So, could he really be called a hero when he doesn't even have a dimension that he can call home? It was at this moment that Corleo was finally able to see what Mama was so worried about. The reason why Mama was so overprotective of him and why she never wanted him to be a hero. And it's because heroes have to sacrifice in order to protect people. And Mama knew this because she was very good friends with Halo. More than good friends, lovers. But then the end came. The demon lord that was chasing after Evan. The only thing is that he wasn't that strong. Most likely because he used up all his energy to travel dimensions just to reach Evan. So Evan was able to seal him in a box, and the fight was over as soon as it started. So Evan then turns to Corleo and he tells him his real plan, and that was to kill him so he could replace him as the hero of the new world. Because there can't be more than one hero or demon lord at the same time in the same dimension. But as Evan was about to slay Corleo, End breaks the seal and lunges at Evan, but Corleo jumps in front of the attack and saves Evan. Corleo is bitten by the End and is cut in two, leaving him in a state beyond repair. Evan then proceeds to kill the End, but Evan is confused as to why Corleo went and saved them. When Evan was about to kill Corleo, and that is when Corleo responded back with, "It's a hero's job to protect people," as his vision fades to black. Corleo wakes up and he sees Mama, who is crying right next to him. Evan is also there, but Corleo is confused. How is it that he's alive when he knows that he was cut in half? So Evan then tells Corleo that he is no hero because Evan has done things that heroes should never do. He has killed people when it is a hero's job to protect them, and that is why he doesn't deserve to live in this new world as a hero. Instead, he is going to transfer his life to Corleo because he believes that Corleo is the true hero of this world. But as he transfers his life over to Corleo, Evan starts to fade to black until he is completely gone, and Corleo is then left with Mama crying over him as Evan fades. Now, what a great ending that was. If this was a one-shot, I feel like the story could just stand on itself. But sadly, there's 14 other chapters that I feel, at least in my opinion, don't really hold up to this first chapter. Now, you're probably thinking, how does the author wrap up the story from here? Like, how does he progress it forward? It just feels like it wraps up right here, right? Well, I'll tell you how, but before I do, I kind of want to clarify why Evan gave up his life. So, before he died, he said he wasn't a real hero. And he said he wasn't a real hero because he's killed some people. Now, the way I looked at it is that it looks like he wants to sacrifice people, but never really put himself on the line and be the sacrifice himself. He never wants to lose anything. And seeing Corleo pretty much made him realize that being a hero meant sacrificing everything he has just to keep other people safe, because that's the very nature of a hero. And there's plenty of examples of Evan being this selfish hero, but I think the most obvious answer is the fact that Evan traveled dimensions just to try to get to Corleo so he could take over his world, like in some Rick and Morty episode. So what happens next though? Well, in my opinion, I think the author throws this chapter right in the trash, because everything he set up in this chapter is pretty much resolved in like the next 4 chapters. And the story pretty much just changes the premise. The new premise now is that heroes and demon lords from different dimensions are getting teleported to Corleo's world, and he's trying to find out why it's happening. And obviously he has to beat the bad demon lords. But I hate it though, because in the first chapter, they were emphasizing this feeling of being a fraud, and they just kind of throw it away after the second chapter because the world needs a hero now, so Corleo doesn't have to feel like a fraud anymore. He doesn't have the impostor syndrome that the author was building up in that first chapter. Now, the author tries to carry this idea a little bit, but he never really does, because Corleo feels bad that he hasn't trained to be a hero and everybody's a lot better than him. But after like the first fight, that pretty much just goes out the window because Corleo is just really strong with his new sigil. So all the training that had to happen doesn't have to happen anymore because his innate abilities are just a lot stronger than training. He also doesn't have to make any more friends because all the friends just kind of go to him. He even gets a girlfriend at chapter 5. Now, all these things aren't necessarily bad, but I feel like the author just kind of clickbaited me because he set up the story where the main character or the shonen protagonist has imposter syndrome, and that's definitely something pretty rare that doesn't really happen in a lot of shonen mangas. And in the second chapter, his imposter syndrome is pretty much just resolved. And not only is his imposter syndrome resolved, but he also gets a lot of plot armor where the whole story just goes Corleos' way. Now, there's also one thing I want to complain about, and that's Mamama and Corleos' mother-son relationship. Because after chapter 3, that relationship just isn't there. Mamama is gone for pretty much the whole story after chapter 3, and she hasn't come back at all. So I don't really understand why they built up this mother-son relationship if they weren't even gonna use it. Maybe just to show that Mamama really cared for Corleo, but she never really comes around after he became a hero. She just accepts the fact that Corleo is the hero and just lets him go on his way. She doesn't really even try to stop him. Now, I know it's probably too early to say if the story is good or bad. I just don't like the fact that they set up this really good chapter 1 and then just never really capitalized on it. Listen, I know you're supposed to let the author cook, but from what I've been reading, this story is getting very generic compared to what it was for chapter 1. Now, I have been reading a lot of these comments, and a lot of people don't actually like chapter 1. I think I'm one of the few that actually do. But I just don't like everything after chapter 1. And at least from my opinion, the story just feels really generic. Now, I know that it's inspired by Dragon Quest. Like, the story doesn't have to be too complicated, but the characters have to really carry the story. At least that's how it is for Dragon Quest. Granted though, I've only played 11. A lot of these characters don't really feel like new or refreshing. Like, they're not bad, but they're also not the greatest. They're just kind of mid. But yeah, that's pretty much all my feelings about this one. Let me know if you guys agree. Maybe I feel like I'm being a little harsh. I just do feel kind of betrayed after that first chapter. If you like this video, I do have another video that I made about an edgy robot cat girl. So check that out, and peace.